And I'm Mystic.
And this is Lore Together, where we discuss video game lore because it's one of the things we like to do together. We lore together.
And this time, episode 4, we're going into...
more Elder Scrolls.
Yes.
So, guys, we thought this was going to be a 2-parter, and it's going to be a 4-parter. And you can blame Mystic for being too good at his job to just cut things out.
Yeah, so last time we covered the general world of the Elder Scrolls.
The general creation.
And the creation of it.
Yeah.
This time we're going more into depth in what are called the Aedra, which are the 8 divines of the Imperial Pantheon.
Now, so this is only the Imperial Pantheon, which the Imperials, again, are on which country on Tamriel?
When we're in this case, when we're talking Imperial, we're talking the Empire. We're not talking a race.
But I mean, what are they? Where are they centered at in Tamriel, which we talked about in episode Cyrodiil.
Which all but one of the provinces also has their own pantheon. Cyrodiil has its own pantheon that has more than what we're going to talk about today.
Okay, but is this one of the most widely accepted pantheons?
This is the Empire's what is called the Imperial cult.
Okay.
This is the Empire's view of the religion.
Okay.
So this is their religion. It's the one that almost all the games deal with.
Okay.
So.
All right. So that's the one that most players would know about, having played Skyrim, Oblivion, all the other ones.
The only two, I had this in another thing, but the only two that do not deal with the Empire are Elder Scrolls Online.
Okay.
And Elder Scrolls Legends Redguard. Those take place before this Empire started.
That's right. I remember hearing that Redguard was way, way early on in the whole thing.
Yes. And we're saying the 8 divines because even though in the games it's called the 9 divines...
Yeah, there's a debate.
A, there's a debate. B, that's the Cyrodiilic Pantheon.
Yeah. Which
is more gods than the Imperial Pantheon. So we're going to not have Talos in this. He's not an Aedra.
Talos!
But we will cover him eventually.
Okay.
And I did want to cover the actual myth at some point, the annotated Anuad. But we're going to leave that up to the patrons if you have to hear it, because...
Oh my gosh, my ears are going to bleed. Eyes are going to pop out of boredom.
It's not quite that bad. It's just taking natural forces and personifying them. It's really kind of weird.
Okay.
But we're not going to do that today.
I'm still not down with that quite now.
Yeah.
And again, we thought this was going to be a 2-parter, and now it's basically probably going to be a 4-parter.
Yes. The Aedra are all going to be in this episode. The 8 Aedra.
The 8 Aedra.
The Daedra, there's more than 10 of them. And they have a lot more influence on the world. They have a lot more story to them. They have a lot more history to them because they just have more influence and can affect change.
Right.
So each of them is a little bit more complex than some of these Aedra. Some of these Aedra don't even have a lot to them. It's just, here's their sphere, blah, 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 done.
Okay.
So, not sphere. Here's their...
realm of influence?
Yeah.
Okay.
But let's start with the Aedra. We're going to start with what Aedra even means. It is Elven for our ancestors.
Okay, so as in... Well, our ancestors, because you talked about that there were those who were so into creation that they ended up boning each other and making the other races. But these aren't the beings that actually bone and created.
Correct. These are not the El Nofe. These are the Aedra. These are the ones who just created the world and therefore allowed everybody to even live. Okay. So we have the setting because of the Aedra, and we have the characters because of the... El Nofe.
Okay.
Yeah. Most of the Aedra are benevolent towards the citizens of Tamriel, more or less. They're benevolent deities. So...
as benevolent as a multi-deity pantheon probably can be.
Yes.
Because I've never known of a multi-deity pantheon being completely cool with each other all of the time in all the mythology.
Yeah. That's fair. We're going to start with the chief deity, though.
So there's a chief deity.
There is a deity that's kind of like the, you have Zeus, you have Odin, you have, there's a deity that is...
the top of the food chain.
The top of the food chain. And in this case, it would be Akatosh.
Akatosh, okay.
Who, you may remember, Akatosh is the much cooler name for Ariel, the Atada who created time.
Oh, okay.
His symbol is often an hourglass.
I was gonna say, is he like Flavor Flav and just have a big like wall mount clock with gold just hanging off there? And so can I just make sure that we know that these gods are gendered too, right?
Yes.
So Akatosh is very much a he.
Yes.
Okay.
There are gods and goddesses.
Okay.
It gets complicated next time when we get to the Daedra.
Do the Daedra switch genders, or
the Daedra? They apply. I think they apply gender to the divines, the Aedra, because a lot of it is religion, and therefore it's easier to identify with at least something that has some humanity to it, quote unquote, for lack of a better term.
That makes sense.
The Daedra also are gendered, but it's more clear that the Daedra are able to be whatever they want.
So they're more shapeshifters, probably because they technically have more power outside?
I think it's all just interpretation. Okay. I don't think these beings actually are gendered.
Okay, so it's more like how they're perceived rather than... Okay.
Another name for Akatosh, another good name, is the Dragon God of Time.
The Dragon God of Time.
And he is therefore represented as a dragon as well. In fact, in Skyrim, his shrines are a dragon and a sword.
Okay.
Akatosh is in a lot of the pantheons, most of the pantheons actually, under different names.
Oh, of course. I would assume the names switch around.
Akatosh, Lorcan, and
Akatosh, can I just say, sounds like something I'd order at brunch. So with some sort of like mixed
with some
egg.
hash.
Yeah, like a mixed egg hash thing. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. So.
I lost my place for a second. What did we last talk about?
Hash. We were talking about French.
Akatosh. Lorcan is in most of them under different names.
Okay, Lorcan. Okay, so if Akatosh is the brunch food, Lorcan is that's not quite so foodie. Okay, keep going.
And the third one is Mara is under different names.
Mara sounds like a wine. Lorcan is the chef that's cooking with Mara and Akatosh. There we go. Have a Mara Akatosh dish. I now want to make this up. I want a cookbook based on all of the names.
We have the Elder Scrolls cookbook.
We do have the P.S. We are those people. We do have the Elder Scrolls cookbook. We'll talk more about the cookbooks we have that are nerd related later as well. Because, oh my god.
And we'll explain all those differences between all the pantheons and stuff. I figure eventually each race and province will get its own episode. Hopefully not all at once, because that would be a 9-episode streak.
Oh, yeah, let's not do that. I mean, I already feel bad that we're doing a 4-parter for something we thought was going to be a 2-parter.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm going to keep apologizing for the fact that we're going to be spending so much time in Elder Scrolls, but it's because of how long it's been around, and because of
how much stuff is in the games.
The world is really deeply, intricately built up.
Right.
So you can't get around. There's no getting around it.
So each divine has their own amulet, at least in Skyrim.
Yeah.
I assume other places have them too, but they just weren't in the games. They do have other types of amulets in the games, but none for the divines.
Right.
But, in Skyrim, the most popular one, we'll use that as a base. I assume these amulets are enchanted by a priest of said divine because the player can't make them.
No, that's right. No,
so, an amulet of Akatosh will grant the word 25% magic regeneration.
Which makes sense because it does take a lot of magic to create something as metaphysical as time itself.
Well, that's not even the most famous amulet of Akatosh. Let's preface this a little bit better. Akatosh is considered the god defender of the empire, and is actually actually created the amulet of the kings, an artifact worn by the emperors until it was destroyed during the Oblivion Crisis in Oblivion.
That's what I was going to say. That must relate back to Oblivion because the whole first bit of the story, which is the only part
tutorial
I played,
bit.
Yeah, it was where you hear Patrick Stewart's amazing voice acting that basically drowned the rest of the budget.
So my favorite thing, we could get into this in Oblivion too a little bit more, but my favorite thing about that is Elder Scrolls Oblivion was recorded. All their lines were recorded alphabetically, so that's why everything sounds so disjointed in that game.
Yeah.
Patrick Stewart because he was playing a specific character who had specific lines and didn't have like rumors or anything else.
Yeah.
They gave him 90 pages of backstory for his character.
Oh my lord.
And he absolutely loved it.
Do you think we can... Okay, so here's the thing we need help with Patreon. We need you to make us famous enough so we can justify Patrick Stewart literally coming to our very humble recording studio. And I do mean humble recording studio.
It is the quietest room in our apartment.
Yeah. And interview him specifically on what he remembers of this backstory. Because he's... Oh my gosh.
I'm sure most of it's been worked into the games by now, so we may cover all the stuff he knows. But I remember reading that he said he had never gotten that much history on a character.
Oh, and he loves that stuff.
Yeah.
He's very much an actor who thinks about the reason.
Well, he's a method actor.
Yeah, he's a method actor. He thinks about why his characters do what they do, and that's why he does. There's some people who can act without that stuff, like Brad Pitt, and then there's just some people who they shine as soon as they have information behind it.
Yeah. I don't get why the Amulet of the Kings was created. That's Cyrodiilic history, and that's a little deep for right now.
Yeah, get out of this episode. We have enough material as it is.
It kind of ties back to this. It is important to discuss, though, because it ties into Akatosh a little bit. So it dates back to when the humans of Cyrodiil were enslaved by what is known as the Ayleid, which is an elven race. And the Amulet of Kings is essentially representative of a covenant between Akatosh and Alessia, who was the first empress of Cyrodiil.
Wow, okay.
Not of Tamriel, just of Cyrodiil. This is before the unification.
Okay.
And she brought the people out of slavery. That's why she was empress. Akatosh basically mingled his blood with her and her line. And as long as there was dragon blood in their veins, quote unquote, the veil between the mortal plane and oblivion would remain closed. This is what happens with...
Wait, did they go on a really hot date? Is this
probably
what
not.
happened?
It's all probably metaphorical.
I was going to say, it's like Akatosh is coming in like, hey, baby, how'd you like to have some divinity? And
I haven't delved into Saint Alessia and, the early Cyrodiilic history that much yet. But this is why Oblivion was able to happen, because all the emperors were killed. Therefore, there was no... there was only one illegitimate son, and the amulet was destroyed. There's just... So all of that is why that happened.
Right.
Akatosh, all the divines have a command as well, commandments, essentially. Akatosh's command is serve and obey your emperor.
Sounds on brand.
Study the covenants.
Okay.
Worship the 9, which I believe would probably be worship the 8. I think this has been changed in the third era, since the third era. Do your duty and heed the commands of the saints and priests. So
obey, obey, obey.
Right. Chief deity.
Yeah.
And here's one little detail I found very interesting, and I didn't know this, that all the divines, well, almost all the divines, are named for real people.
Oh, okay, wow.
Akatosh was named after the Daggerfall beta tester Lawrence Sidlowski, who would sign off in his post with, also known as Old Smog himself, the first letter of each word forming the letters Akatosh.
Oh.
So, on to more Aedra. Let's go on to we'll do alphabetical order. So, we'll go to RK.
RK sounds like the name that I would give the leader to a Pokemon gym. Or it's the next TV series that's going to have a hip kid with a nickname that knows the underground. RK. You got to connect with RK, man. He knows how it is to do this special underground competitive thingamadooby, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's literally what I think that's going to be on the next CSI Spaceballs or whatever it's going to be.
Oh, apparently they're bringing CSI back.
Are they?
Like, for the 20th anniversary, they're going to have, like, a mini-series or something.
Oh, that's cute. That is one thing that I just can't die. They just... Didn't they... CSI...
They killed it off pretty well with CSI Cyber, which was not very accurate.
That was because... No, they could not... That's just so limited.
They just need more people hacking at the same time, like they had in NCIS. Oh. Anyway, this is off topic. So, RK. Yeah. RK is the god of the cycle of birth and death.
Okay.
His priests perform funeral rites throughout the empire, and being tied to life and death, he's also the god of the seasons.
This reminds me of the Hindu god Shiva.
Shiva? Okay.
Shiva is the bringer of, like, a lot of people who don't know Hinduism think of him as the death god, but again, it is a cycle of life and death. So it's the creator and the destroyer. They have the power to do both.
Not to get too far ahead, but in Skyrim, people, Alduin is the big bad. Alduin is the world eater and stuff, but Alduin is also the creator.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of like that same idea.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
At least that's the Nordic pantheon.
Right.
But we'll get there eventually. But that's just one thing I found interesting to tie.
Yeah.
Arche is often symbolized as two circles woven together, sometimes of rope, sometimes abstract shapes. Mm-hmm. One time in, I think it was Redguard, he was the infinity symbol intersecting a circle. So there's just...
Yeah.
Same theme here, though. Like, yeah. They're not tied. They're just kind of...
Overlapping. So
the
figure eight shape, essentially, right?
Kind of.
Or is it more Venn diagram?
It's hard to quite explain. It's more like if you took two circles of rope and just twisted them together.
Okay.
But obviously there's a theme here. So,
yes.
An Amulet of Arche will give you an extra 10 hit points. Whew.
That's very important early on in the game.
That's true. It's not a heck of a lot, but...
I don't know if you guys who saw our live stream saw me basically fail to get... Those aren't even... I know those little... What were these?
Charises,
yeah.
That wouldn't have helped you on this one.
Yeah, well...
Yeah.
Charis is what I'm thinking of. Yeah.
Or Charis or something like that. But yeah, 10 points, not a lot. Could be between life and death. Wouldn't have helped you in that case probably, though. Because you were just...
That was an insta-kill. Oh my gosh, it wasn't even worth it.
Arche's history is kind of muddled.
How many Aedra are going to have this muddled history?
Not many, actually. Most are considered Etada.
Okay.
In most tellings, Arche is Etada. He is one of the original spirits. He is fully whatever. But some myths claim he was a mortal who was ascended by Mara.
Oh.
If it's true, which don't know if it is or not at this point. If it's true, the mortal person, Arche, found a book that explained life and death and the meaning of life, and it wasn't 42 for once. I was very disappointed.
Oh.
But he ran out of time. He could not finish the book.
Oh.
And with his death approaching, he prayed to Mara for help.
Oh, okay.
And Mara asked him what he had learned, and he was not completely correct about life and death, because obviously she knew.
Right, of course.
Being a god. But he had a good start, and she offered him a choice. Mm-hmm. He could either die or become the god of birth and death. He would have time to figure things out.
Okay.
But being a god is busy work, especially when being the god of birth and death, your job is to keep birth and death in balance.
Oh, so essentially it's kind of like having scales.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which you would think that would be a symbol, but no.
Yeah.
I get it. Birth and death, kind of like an infinite...
It is a cyclical thing.
Yeah. So he accepted and was ascended to become the god. Most claim that he is a spirit like the other Aedra. Some claim he's a combination of gods from other pantheons. So...
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Specifically Xerxes, the Altmeri god of secret knowledge, and Orki, Nordic god of mortality. So you can kind of see a little bit how that...
I can see how that marries into the story, definitely.
We'll get to those two eventually. There's not a heck of a lot in each of them, though.
Okay, that's fine.
They have at best stubs on the wikis.
Okay, that's fair.
His command, honor the earth, its creatures, and the spirits, living and dead, guard and tend the bounties of the mortal world. Do not profane the spirits of the dead. You want to really tick off a priest of Arche, start talking about necromancy.
Ooh, that makes sense. Yeah. Because it's all about balance, and so dead should not come back to life, right. Yada, yada, yada. This is not a fan of zombies or vampires or anything like that. Right. Well, I don't know about vampires, but zombies definitely not.
Vampires probably not. Vampires are really not a huge thing, a thing that the Aedra are fans of. Daedra, much more so, because all vampires are considered quote-unquote children of one of the more powerful Daedra.
Ah, yeah.
So...
Which, for those of you who have played Sabbat, praise Cain!
So, a neat little thing, the healing potions and poisons usually have Arche's symbol on the label. Don't know if that was true in our modded one, but they usually have his symbol, the interwoven ropes on it.
I don't think it was true in our modded one, but that's fine. You can all blame Mystic for the inaccuracies there.
You can blame the mod author. I just thought they looked cooler.
You're the one who installed it.
and the nude mod, which I think I've removed now. So
yeah, sorry about that, guys. Jeez.
I thought I moved it before the stream, and that was a surprise. Real life connection here. Arche was named after the original beta testers of Daggerfall, Arche Deutsch.
Arcade.
R.K. Deutsch. So his initials
that
R.K.
That sounds like a Three Stooges joke. R.K. Deutsch? Like, that's like who's on first line.
Let's move on to many people's favorite, Dibella.
Oh, yes.
Goddess of beauty and love.
Yes.
Little less kid-friendly here, so we'll try to keep it...
we'll try to keep this family-friendly, because I'm sure there's people who want to listen to this with their kids. Because there are people... I mean...
But we are dealing with a god who has a lot of erotic stuff. We won't go into too much detail, but the word erotic will come up.
Okay. We'll try to keep it somewhat PG.
She has nearly a dozen different cults, some devoted to women, some to artists and aesthetics, and some to erotic instruction.
So this is very much kind of, a derivative of things like Aphrodite.
Very much so, yes.
Okay.
Her symbol is a flower, and her amulet increases the wearer's speech skill by 15 points.
Ah, I see.
Dibella discourages relations with the undead, such as vampires, and concurs with the teachings of Arche that vampires have impure spirits, so... Yeah.
So don't hook up with a vampire.
The goddess makes her will known to mortals through her Sibyl, who is revealed to her priesthood via a ceremony known as the Exalted Protocol of the Dibellan Sibyl. No idea. The ceremony is known only to the priesthood and is kept secret from the general population, including acolytes of other divines.
Right.
Given her realm of... beauty and love and everything, I'm picturing a group erotic encounter.
Yeah, that sounds like a 1980s movie coven ritual.
Yeah. Followers of Dibella are known to practice the Dibellan arts. We talked about that a tiny bit last time.
Yeah.
And bestow a mark of Dibella upon others.
Which is a flower, very Georgia O'Keeffe.
Her command to those who worship her is open your heart to the noble secrets of art and love, treasure the gifts of friendship, seek joy and inspiration in the mysteries of love. Now, obviously, there is the erotic aspect of love here. There is also love of friends,
love.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, that. There is a separate love as well. That is Mara. We'll get to that. That's more familial, but, love is not just erotic love in this case.
But this sounds like more related to, friends with benefits kinds of deals. Where Mara, I mean, we'll talk more about Mara, but I can get a guess as to what the difference is. I'll talk more about that.
Again, the noble secrets of art and love.
Art and love. So it's very much a passions,
beauty, art, beauty, all that.
Muses.
And most people consider Eroticism love the main part of it. I think the more fun part is actually the artistry part.
Yeah.
Simply for one of her artifacts. All the Aedra have artifacts. Most of them are kind of mildly inconsequential. Obviously, Akatosh has the Amulet of the Kings.
Yeah.
Dibella has the Brush of True Paint, which allows the wielder to paint from within the canvas. You ever seen people do like VR painting? Where they're standing and they're doing 3D paint around themselves. Yeah. Kind of like that, but you don't have to do as much work. You just kind of imagine, poof, it pops out.
Nice.
In fact, it's also tied to one of the best side quests in Oblivion, where you go into the painting to rescue someone who has lost the brush in the painting.
Oh, wow.
So...
that is very cool.
Yeah.
That also reminds me of if anybody grew up watching Are You Afraid of the Dark, that reminds me of one where they had a story where they were talking about witches and there were kids trapped in paintings. So,
nice.
Spooky stuff.
All that being said, Dibellan arts definitely include the love sphere most prominently, and you will see flowers around her shrines, and in one particular case, leather boots.
Fair.
Take that connotation however you want.
Hiking is really fun too.
Now, adding the real life stuff at the end of each divine. I know we just talked about, artistry and eroticism and stuff. I don't want to see it in connection to the real life person and the erotic side of Dibella.
Okay.
But Dibella was named after Daggerfall beta tester Mary Jo Dibella.
Oh, okay. So that is a real last name.
Yeah. It's Italian. Dibella.
Well, I figured that out very quickly. I probably ate it at Dibella at some point in my life.
Moving on from Dibella back to kid friendly.
Okay.
We have Giuliano's.
Giuliano's, also a place that I probably ate at, but more Greek rather than Italian.
God of wisdom and logic and language and math and magic and science and literature and law and history. He's basically the god of info dumps.
Yeah, I was going to say he's the god of the liberal arts, essentially. This is the god of you going to college. Jeez.
His amulet increases magicka by 10 points, and his symbol is a triangle because of course it is.
When is it not a triangle? I was waiting for it to be kind of like the Mason symbol with the little compass. What is it? Not the compass.
It is a triangle.
Yeah.
In Skyrim, it is just like a pyramid. You're like, dunk.
Right. You just need the eye in the middle of it, and suddenly your Illuminati connections get your kicks off of that.
Yeah. I said the god of infodumps, and I mean it. The Elder Scrolls themselves, those titular objects that nobody knows where they came from, they contain vast amounts of information that are very plot relevant whenever you bring them up.
Okay.
They are kept, once found, and can only be read by a monastic order known as the Moth Priests, who are all followers of Julianos. Okay.
The Moth... So are they the Moth Priests because they're hidden away for a bit? Or?
They use a... This is from, I remember this from, I haven't researched it for this, but I remember this from the Skyrim DLC Dragonborn. No, not Dragonborn, the other one. The vampire one. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head.
I want to say it's like a mountain-themed title, but I forget as well. Because I actually didn't play
the one with Serana, that's all I remember. But, I'm just blanking on the name. But you find an Elder Scroll, you need a Moth Priest to read it, and the way that they read apparently is through a thing called the ancestor moth, which is a real insect. He can't read more. He's tired. You have to go find ancestor moth and do it yourself. It's kind of whatever. But,
okay.
Yeah.
Ancestor moths.
Yeah. Also, reading an Elder Scroll, if you're not prepared for it, which most people are not, will make you go blind or insane, probably both. So
like the Necronomicon, okay.
Yeah, if we want to get into that, we'll do that more with Aedra, too.
I don't know. We only have so much time here, so...
I said Aedra, so...
Okay.
So that's next episode.
Again, we don't want to be... We could be in Elder Scrolls forever if we try too hard.
Julianos' command, know the truth, observe the law, when in doubt, seek wisdom from the wise.
Observe the law as well.
Yeah.
Do they mean the law in the same way that Akatosh does, or do they mean...
Do not know.
Or do they just mean the laws of the physiological laws?
Don't know. I do not know that one. Julianos is based on programmer Julian LeFay, who is one of the original creators of the Elder Scrolls series and is sometimes affectionately referred to as the father of the Elder Scrolls.
Aww.
So you can kind of see how that all ties into his followers being able to read the Elder Scrolls. So
Papa Tamriel.
Papa Tamriel. Leaving Julianos, we go to Kinnereth.
Kinnereth.
Yeah.
So, which Kinnereth for some reason makes me think of a hearth.
Slightly apt, actually. Goddess of the heavens, the wind, elements, nature in general.
Okay.
So...
Hippie goddess.
Kind of. Also invoked often for the hunt and...
Yeah, Artemis.
Yeah. In Legends, she is the first Itada to agree with Lorkhan's plan to create Mundus.
Oh, hence why she's the one that's connected with nature, because that's the one that deals with most outward creation, it seems like.
Her symbol is a bird.
Be free!
Seems to specifically be a dove, but it's kind of hard to tell in some of them. I think it's supposed to be a dove, but like...
I suddenly have this image of the dove from Mars Attacks. Have you seen that movie?
I have not seen Mars Attacks. The only thing I know is...
So, if for anybody who's seen it, you probably know what I'm talking about. The scene where they're trying to welcome the Martians and it says, "We come in peace," and somebody releases a dove, and that's
Do they kill it?
Oh, they kill it, and then they kill everybody. It becomes and so they try to do another peaceful meeting, and literally the government's holding signs saying, "Please, no doves." It's so absurd.
You say Mars Attacks, and unfortunately my brain goes to Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, no.
But we won't say more than that, because this is not that podcast, but...
No. This is... Right now we're talking about doves and Kinnereth, right?
Kinnereth, yes. Going to the amulets again, an amulet of Kinnereth increases stamina by 10 points. I imagine to better run in the wilds and hunt and...
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
She's invoked for almost everything. People ask her for new stars for auspicious occasions, plentiful game, patron saint of sailors, travelers, anything you'd ask a nature deity to do.
Fertility?
Aside from crops and fertility.
Oh, okay. So she's not in charge of agriculture or breeding of any sort. Okay.
So, one of my favorites, I do have a favorite story of hers. It's probably one of the few that I actually wrote in here. Mm-hmm. She had a champion. I don't know the race of the champion, just her name. B-O-U-R-L-O-R. So Borlor, something.
That is an unfortunate name.
She gave them blessed arrows that would always hit their mark.
Okay.
Sometimes, though, it would take years to hit their mark.
Oh, this sounds like a great bard story kind of start.
And not like they'd fly around in the air and stuff. So, long story short, Borlor misses his shot. Yeah. And the arrow is embedded in a tree.
But does somebody cut down that tree and then the arrow hits the target?
Borlor dies eventually. And years later, the Daedra, who he was firing at, goes into his own shrine after it's being attacked by people. Mm-hmm. And they're throwing rocks at it. And one of the rocks hits the door shatters a little bit, and the arrow that was in the tree, because this door was made of the tree.
Oh my god.
Flies into his back and kills him.
Wow. Posthumously hit the target. Okay. Yeah.
Kynareth's command: use the nature gifts wisely, respect her power, and fear her fury. And
ooh. Yeah. So like volcanoes and earthquakes and that epic stuff, I assume.
Yeah. Kynareth is the only of the 8 divines we don't seem to have a real life connection to for names. Oh. There was a armor in Arena called the it's either Armor of Kynareth or Kynareth's Armor or something. Mm-hmm. And then in Daggerfall the deity was introduced. Okay. So
we're not sure about
where the name came from on that one.
Kynareth. It could have just magically been pulled out of somebody's brain. Yeah. It's not a bad god name, I'll give you that. So.
And now we come to Mara.
Mara!
Mother goddess of love, fertility, agriculture, compassion, which is why she helped Araki when he was dying, at least in that one telling. Yeah. Her amulet is how you could initiate a romance.
Why mystic? Is that an amulet of Mara you're wearing?
I think the way they say it is... Because I remember, I didn't know that that's what it did.
Oh, yeah.
I just thought it was like a weird... It was a mod I had that had like a weird effect that you would just be wearing it. Oh. And all the characters I would walk up to who were marriable, and I didn't realize at the time, I'd go, oh, look at the colors.
Yeah. They would get... So for those of you who've ever played the game... So the thing is...
At least Skyrim. I don't know how it was done in... I don't think there were romanceable relationships in previous games.
And in Skyrim, it's very much more of a practical thing. That you can get married to somebody, and therefore you might... share profits with their business or be able to stay at their house, and sometimes they'll bake you a meal.
Or they'll come with you on your quest.
And the way you initiate this is that you wear an amulet of Mara. So, for example, for my dark elf, there was a shopkeeper that was kind of a sassy guy, and I was like, okay, well, I think for this character's little story, because Elder Scrolls, again, there's so much going on with the world that the characters usually don't have like a lot of backstory for you to gut into, because there's so many missions and so many other big world overarching stories that the characters don't have the depth to say, like a BioWare game. So you kind of have to...
They got a little bit... They're getting better, though.
You kind of have to write some of the backstory yourself for some of these side characters, because there's so many side characters. It's too much to expect even a big company like Bethesda to have.
You'd be surprised how much depth there is. Like,
there probably is a lot of depth, but we're not able to see it. And I think I'm not begrudging Bethesda for doing this because it's so huge.
I think a lot of it is hidden. Yeah. It's like in a journal somewhere that you just haven't seen or something like that.
So while you're as the player, sometimes you got to fill in the gaps. So you have to fill in the gaps of what you think your character's background would be because after you choose the race and the sex and what their...
That's true. Your character is a blank slate.
And then, one of the shopkeepers, I forget, it's basically where, if you're playing Skyrim, it's in the city where the resistance is, and where you need to go if you want to join.
In Windhelm?
Windhelm.
The city of racists?
Yes, and there's a Dunmer shopkeeper.
Yes.
And so that was, and it's not like he's particularly attractive or anything, but I thought it made sense because there was at one point where I was like, well, let me see if I can get away like sleeping in his shop. And I did. And I was like, okay, I'm going to assume that they had a relationship then. So they got married and I got to share some of the profits.
So your dark elf is walking around Skyrim, goes to the city of the people who are racist against elves.
Oh, she was a self-hating Dunmer.
Oh, jeez.
My thing was that like she's like, I'm going to prove she had this problem where she basically wanted to prove that she was better than that. So she was basically gonna prove that Dunmer were okay by being the exception, not realizing the problematic nature of that. I wrote all this in my own head.
I don't know. Here's the funny thing. I know that there is an elf in Windhelm who people accuse of being an Imperial spy, because they accuse all the elves of being Imperial spies.
Yeah, I think I did that mission.
But I think the shopkeeper that you're talking about, I'm not sure of this. There's a shopkeeper and there's a bartender. It's one of the two of them.
Yeah.
Who is actually spying for the Imperials.
I think it was...
And it would be funny
I think it was the barkeep. I think I found out
I think it is the barkeep.
Because
it would have been funny if you were hooking up with the guy who was a spy.
Spying on the Imperials. That would have been great. But no. But anyway, getting back to the point. So, knowing this was the mechanic, what you do in Skyrim, and again, we think it's only in Skyrim, if you're near a character and you think they're spouse material, you wear... And I think it doesn't matter what gender they are either.
Most of the characters don't care about your gender. A couple of the marriage people care. Like there's a whole grid in that strategy guide we have of what race and gender they will marry.
Yeah. So this one worked out. So essentially, you wear the Amulet Mara, and usually then, if you talk to somebody who is a spouse option, they will make a comment on your Amulet Mara, and then you can propose. So it's kind of the opposite of Western culture, where you're supposed to give somebody a ring. Instead, what you do is you put this necklace on to advertise. Well, you have to buy the necklace. You have to buy the necklace, and you're going to have to advertise, but you're not giving it to anybody. You're wearing it as an advertisement. Like, I'll marry somebody. Is it you? And so they have to make a comment.
It's kind of funny you actually bring up this, because what triggered in my brain, since we mentioned Picard a little bit ago, my brain was on that wavelength for a tiny bit. And I just remember on Risa, when he goes to that planet, he's wearing that amulet that apparently says that you're open to be with people and everything. And he
doesn't realize that.
He doesn't realize it.
Yeah.
So kind of like my character being like, why is everyone talking about the colors? What the heck is going on?
But the Amulet of Mara also has benefits, right?
Yes. Amulet of Mara makes restoration spells cost 10% less magicka.
Right. So better healing, yeah.
Her symbol is usually two ropes knotted together.
Right.
As I said before, she's present in almost all the pantheons under different names. She is sometimes affiliated to Nur, who gave birth to all creation in that glorious story we haven't told you yet.
No, I'm not ready, guys. I'm not doing it. I'm not drunk enough. I can't do it quite some time.
Mara's as we've discussed, Mara's the deity that wedding ceremonies are generally done under, and you can find... So there's an amulet of Mara. You can also find rings of Mara sometimes, too, which are at some of her shrines. Mara's command is live soberly and peacefully, honor your parents, preserve the peace and security of home and family.
Yeah, so that's why she's more familial love and structured love, because that seems to be more about having a foundation of society rather than Dibella, which is more about passions and whims.
Mara is named after Daggerfall beta tester Marilyn Wasserman.
Okay.
So, just a little note there. And I'll see if I can find it. There's a picture I saw one time that was most of these people together.
Oh, nice.
So, I'll see if I can find that again, and we'll put it in the description if we can. Nearing the end, we only have a couple left here.
Okay.
We have Stendarr.
Stendarr was a man. Or maybe he was a dragon.
No, that's Akatosh.
Maybe he was a dragon man. But he was still Stendarr! I'm sorry. So if nobody remembers Trogdor from like the late 90s, early aughts.
Yeah, back when the internet memes were terrible.
Oh gosh, Trogdor was amazing. I named almost every iPod I had was Trogdor the Burninating iPod. It was amazing.
Remember iPods? Kids aren't gonna remember iPods even.
So do you guys know how all your music is on an app right now that's on your phone as well as your computer? Now imagine it had to actually be uploaded into something about, a little bit smaller than your cell phone. That's what iPods were. And oh my gosh, we thought we lived in the future when we had them. We thought they were the best thing ever.
I thought I lived in the future when I had a Discman, so...
No, the Discman didn't quite do it for me for some reason, just because it was too glitchy compared to an iPod, which is even saying something. So
anyway...
You couldn't jog with a Discman the way you could with an iPod.
Anti-skip totally worked, didn't it?
No, don't. Okay. All right, now we're showing our age a little too much. All right, so Stendarr.
Stop that. Stendarr, god of... Okay, you're going to do that again when I say this. God of righteous might.
Stendarr!
And merciful forbearance. I'm not quite sure what that means.
Merciful forbearance. What is he, a justice god? Does he have a hammer? Please tell me he has a hammer.
No.
Oh.
His symbol is an upturned chalice full of wine. Or an upturned drinking horn.
What, is he supposed to be like Dionysus?
I don't know. His ammo is a bit unique in its specificity, though. Mm-hmm. Shields block 10% more damage.
Nice.
Not like... Because you can block with other things.
Right, but you have
to... But shields for this one.
You essentially have to lose the damage capacity with having a weapon or a spell in your arm. Okay.
His command is be kind and generous to the people of Tamriel, protect the weak, heal the sick, and give to the needy.
Okay.
Don't know what the chalice of wine deals with that.
I guess it's a chalice of plenty.
That's maybe I could see that. Yeah, like a
cornucopia. Yeah, that's what I would assume.
Now you started in Skyrim in our last Patreon stream. You did. We had a mod installed called the Realm of Lorkhan to skip the 20+ minute tutorial segment.
Oh, guys, you can find it online. There's so many different memes that make fun of it, too.
Yeah.
It's so perfect.
But you started, since Realm of Lorkhan allows you to spawn anywhere in the game, you decided to spawn at the Hall of Vigilance.
Yes.
And so the Vigilance are a cult who venerate Stendarr. They are the Vigilance of Stendarr.
Oh, yeah, they're all about justice. That makes sense now.
It's their mission to hunt down anything dealing with Daedra, necromancy, and conjurers.
Why conjuring in particular?
Because when you conjure in the Elder Scrolls, you aren't creating something out of nothing. You are forcing a Daedra from Oblivion, a minor Daedra from Oblivion, to form that thing. So that, like, when you conjure a sword, that sword is actually the soul or whatever of a Daedra.
So you're bringing Daedra into the world by conjuring?
Yes.
Okay, so they're essentially... But I can understand, because they feel like... If you feel like the gods are what are keeping everything in order and peaceful in the realm, and the Daedra are a symbol of chaos, I could see you basically being like, anything that represents that chaos needs to get GTFO. needs to be vanquished whatsoever.
Well, this is especially after what happened in the Oblivion Crisis, where Daedra were invading.
Oh, gosh, yeah, that would scar the heck out of anybody.
One of the mods I do have in Skyrim, for a very specific reason, is it puts ruined Oblivion gates in the cities.
Ooh, yeah. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, they weren't there. They should be. The Oblivion Crisis opened gates all over Tamriel.
And it's only, how many years since it...
Want to say 250... I'd have to double check, but I think that's about the time frame.
So there would still be a good amount of ruins of them. Like they'd be worn down.
They'd be collapsing. They'd be in ruins, and they are like most of them are kind of just like worn down, smoothed, or they are falling over and stuff.
We're in older cities. Like if you live in an older city, like especially in Europe, having something that's 250 years old.
That's nothing.
There's people in England who live in houses that were built in like the 1200s and have been maintained. So that's nothing. That's absolutely nothing. I can see that.
What's that one? The oldest business like in Japan. It's been like it's like a hotel that's been open since the 1200s. Not the 1200s, like the 800s or something.
Yeah. I can totally see that. We should have random Oblivion gates all over Skyrim.
Now, there was another mod that I had. I'm going to just cover this very briefly because we're talking about stuff that would have existed. Mm-hmm. In Elder Scrolls Online, there are sky shards, which you can walk around and use to get more skill points and stuff. That one didn't make as much sense to me because it's been ages. Like, that was back in, I think, that was like early Second Era. Yeah. Like, that one made less sense to me.
Okay. There's not a lot of stuff that lasts that long.
But
though there is, but it's not. It's usually big.
Yeah. I don't know if you heard this when you were playing. I was busy looking at the stream and figuring out all that stuff. But did any of them say, "May Stendarr have mercy on you, for the vigil of none to spare"?
No, they did not say that. No, that would have been...
I think those are only told by the ones who are out walking around.
Yeah, because this was in the hall, so
yeah.
it wasn't even as necessary.
Yeah. Stendar is named for Daggerfall beta tester Daniel Starr.
Stendar. Stendar is a better upgrade.
And now we're on the last one. We're on the last of the Aedra.
The last. Who's this?
This is Zenithar.
Zenithar.
God of work, commerce, and trade.
Zenithar sounds like a console that came out in the 80s, like right around the time of the Atari crisis, and it just missed the boat, and so nobody got a Zenithar.
Zenithar also sounds like a 70s band.
No. It would not be 70s, because that... no.
No?
No, I think glam rock was more 80s, if I remember my music history correctly.
I wasn't picturing glam rock, but whatever. No big deal.
I imagine big hair with a name like Zenithar.
That's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
His amulet gives the word 10% better prices in their favor.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. His symbol is an anvil. And Zenithar is said to be very closely related to Kinnereth, as the materials required for Zenithar's craftsmanship and trade must be derived from Kinnereth's natural world. So to revere to revere Zenithar, you also have to acknowledge
Kinnereth. Yeah. You can't just ignore the fact that the stuff came from somewhere.
Yeah. His command for the people of Tamriel is, work hard and you'll be rewarded. Spend wise and you'll be comfortable. Never steal or you'll be punished. Now, it's kind of sounds like work hard and,
pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Which doesn't quite feel that way.
Which, P.S., just to let the record show, pull yourself up by your bootstraps actually used to be a saying to say how impossible it is to do it.
Yes.
Just keep that in mind if anybody ever tells you that.
I don't think it's like, work hard and you'll become really rich. Zenithar, at least many...
Zenithar is not Joel Osteen, is what you're telling me. They're not part of the prosperity gospel.
Right. Many of his priests seem to teach that the path of peace and prosperity is through earnest work and honest profit, not the war, bloodshed, or theft. It kind of seems like if you work hard, it is spiritually rewarding to you.
So you have to earn what you get. It shouldn't be a greed thing. It sounds like do not covet things that you have not earned yourself.
Yeah, that's kind of the interpretation I'm getting. Zenithar was named after Arena beta tester, so we're going to the first game for this one.
Very first one.
Stefan Zen Zepp.
Zen. I'm so
Zen
sorry.
is the nickname, so...
Oh, Zen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll accept that.
And that's the Aedra. That's the 8 Divines.
That is the 8 Divines. Wow.
We'll get to Talos another time when we do Cyrodiilic Pantheon and stuff.
Okay.
He's not an Aedra. So it's,
which is why there's such a heated debate between the Imperial invaders and the Skyrim natives, it seems like.
Yeah, and it's not even the Imperial. Do I want to get into that even briefly?
Maybe not.
Let's do it a tiny bit to explain.
Yes.
Specifically, the Thalmor. The current combination of the Altmer, like all their different cities and stuff, is called it's the Third Empire, the third whatever of the Altmer.
Okay.
They are evil.
Oh, we already talked about how much we don't like the Altmer last episode. Yeah.
They are trying to undo everything since the Merithic era when humans came.
What? This feels like a theme that happens a lot anytime you have any kind of elven race. That there is a segment of the elven race that is like, everything was better before humans came.
Well, here's the thing. The Thalmor themselves are trying to turn back the clock when they had power and immortality and all this other stuff. So that's why they're so dangerous, is that this is their goal, is to undo all of humanity and all of the races.
All right, now remind me, I hate to get another sidetrack here, but isn't that one of the reasons why the Dunmer are considered cursed? That it's something that they tried to do something like that, and then that's why they didn't used to be Dunmer. They didn't used to be dark-skinned and
They used to be called Chimer. They used to be not dark-skinned, and they used to not have red eyes. I forget the exact details right now, but essentially the reason they have ashen skin and red eyes is because they are cursed, I think, by Azura. I don't remember off the top of my head.
There was something volcano related, if I remember
properly. That was the red mountain going off. That was, I think it was the... I can't remember which era that was even at the top of my head.
It's a lot because it's Elder Scrolls. But I thought that... So that was my thing, like, with the Altmer, who are trying to pursue this, I would think...
That would undo them, too.
Yeah, so I would think that the Dunmer would be an example of why you wouldn't want to do that, because they're considered cursed. Which, P.S., It's already kind of skeezy the fact that, you know, you're saying, oh, you're cursed because you're dark-skinned and dark-haired, which you're like, you know, thanks, Bethesda. That doesn't have bad connotations in real life at all. They don't have a curse for the Red Guard, so I think that's part of the reason why they kind of get away with that.
Surprisingly, speaking of curses and tying to skin color and stuff, it's really kind of sad. I'm actually kind of bummed out. I found out that of all the races... Mm-hmm. This was an unscientific poll. This was just some YouTubers who, like, very popular Skyrim YouTubers, basically asked their whole audience, what races do you like to play the most, what the least. Most popular was Khajiit.
Oh, okay.
Cat people.
Yeah.
Least popular, Redguard. And I think that may be because we have not actually seen much of the Redguard.
Not recently. We haven't had a game centered around them either.
Other than Elder Scrolls Redguard, which was, unfortunately, gameplay-wise, not a good game.
Right. I heard that it had a decent story.
Yeah.
But not a good game.
It also suffers from that really old, or like late 90s look.
Right.
So.
Right, when we were still figuring out what 3D was supposed to be.
Anyway, so next time...
You were talking about the Thelmer, and that they're trying to get back to that. I'm trying to remember why did we...
We finished that. Yeah.
Okay.
So next time we're going to start the Daedra.
This is going to be a 4-parter. I think
it's going to be a 4-parter.
Just for Mystic Sanity, I think we have to admit that it's going to be a 4-parter. I want to apologize because...
Well, so like the fun part is like all these characters that we just went through have names.
Yeah.
And they have different names in different pantheons and stuff. The fun ones are the Daedra. All of them have like 7 names, and people will call them all these different names and stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and...
Oh, guys, take notes next time. Take tons of notes.
So, anyway, that'll be next time. If you want to do the social media stuff?
Yeah, social media. Which
and the Patreon.
I want to apologize because I've not been feeling well, so I'm not keeping up with social media. But I'm going to get better. So see me get better. At Lore Together is our Twitter. You can also do loretogether@gmail.com if you want to email us and you want to do more than 240 characters. And Patreon is patreon.com/loretogether. We do have a $1, is it 135?
135.
135
and
tiers.
$1 gets you episodes early, $3 gets you access to the streams, and $5 lets you vote on what we're going to cover.
Yeah, exactly. And more goodies will be coming as we figure it out. If
you're on Reddit, you can find me. I usually am the one who posts on Reddit, but you can find us under Lore Together Pod as the username.
Yeah, I mean, if it's Twitter, it's usually me. If it's Reddit, it's usually Mystic. That's just how the division of labor is right now.
So, but thank you guys for listening.
Yeah,
this was
episode
so 4. Episode 5 will be back with Daedra.
Woo! I'm not ready.
You are not.
No.
I'm not ready.
No, I'm not ready. All right, bye guys.
Bye guys.